got a GoPro and you feel like you're about to die, you might as well take the opportunity to say a few last words. So we're 15 days out from the start of the Race to Alaska, and this is where I'm at mentally. You know, these things are supposed to get easier with time and with experience, and this has gotten no easier for me. I still continuously and daily kind of battle the anxiety.
So about the last month leading up to the race, it seems like every obstacle that you could imagine that could get in the way did get in the way. Injury after injury to his back, pain, twists and stuff. Nothing major, but just enough to slow him down the progress from training. But it never stopped him. You know, you can't keep him down. As much as I would love to say, don't paddle, and I say it every once in a while, don't do this. You don't have to go out there. I'll turn around and go, you know, you got to keep going. It's okay.
So there's something very comforting about knowing that I've got a hometown shop that I can go to get all the things that I need for this trip, in terms of safety equipment, in terms of stuff for the board, in terms of stuff just for survival and being on the water. And that's why I'm here at Ron Jon's.
Josh, it is so great to see you
Hello,
again.
Debbie. How are you?
Good. Are you ready for the big trip to Alaska?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Been training hard, but, you know, a lot of anxiety. You know, this one's a lot bigger than me.
I understand, but you've always told me it's one paddle stroke at a time, and I am sure you have just got this one.
You're right, Debbie. I got this. Just need to get on the water one more time. We're taking off tomorrow, and I just want to go for a little paddle and go hit the beach. So one of the things I mentally rehearse, and this may sound crazy, but you know, I go through the race from start to finish, and I literally visualize and see myself failing in every possible way that I can imagine. You know, whether I get too tired, or I break all my paddles, or something happens to my board, or an orca comes out of the water, or a shark bites my leg, or jellyfish sting me to death, and I'm a failure, and I totally blew it, and the world is watching. And what I find is at the end of every time I go through that sequence, at the end of that, I'm still here. I've still given it my all. My mission hasn't changed, my purpose hasn't changed, and it's okay. And what that allows me to do is to just succeed. You know, I've faced every possible failure that could come up, and so that's one of the ways that I battle that anxiety and meditate through it.
The Race to Alaska is a 750-mile boat race from Port Townsend, Washington to Ketchikan, Alaska, with no engines and no support.
This is my mission, to paddle the Race to Alaska, 750 miles to Ketchikan.
And the interesting thing about his choice of vessel is that he's got a lot of restrictions that other vessels don't necessarily have. His carrying capacity is reduced down to what he can stick into a dry bag. There's no way he can even carry enough water to last him a couple days, because when he stops paddling, the boat stops moving. It's not like a sailboat that you can relax, conserve your energy when the wind is just right. So part of his journey is going to be planning how to survive with very, very little, much less than most people.
The equipment rehearsals are so important, because you hit the beach, unpack, and if you're not if you're not careful, next thing you know, it's an equipment bomb and you're gonna spend hours trying to figure things out. And when you're exhausted, it's not the time to be trying to figure those things out. So my boy Charlie is very, very nervous about all this packing going on. He thinks we're going on a trip. He sees the paddleboard and it's making him crazy. He's ready to go with me and he'll be all right. He's gonna go home with Mom and I'll see you in about 30 days, right, buddy? Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
I want to thank you all for coming out in the 4th year of this race. It is fantastic. We got newcomers, we got returners, and we got all kinds of craft. We have 2 stages, right? Stage 1, Port Townsend to Victoria's Inner Harbor. Anything between the two is acceptable, except for one rule that we started employing last year, and you will be hearing about it soon. You have 36 hours to make it there. Seems easy, but usually a few people don't every year.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Hunt. I'm an ambassador with Mission 22, and I found out about Josh's mission to get through the race to Alaska, and I really wanted to come out and support. I'm local.
Thank you for coming, Mission 22.
I appreciate it.
Did Sarah call you?
And here we are again, the race to Alaska. I made him promise to let's stay on land next time, but I am quite terrified. I want to know that I've got Wi-Fi connection and that I can track him on the spot and know that he's moving when he needs to be moving, because it's not easy. It's race day. Josh is ready. Got some good sleep last night, and I think I'm ready for this. I'm not real sure, but we're gonna find out.
The race is now. I'm here in Port Townsend, and it's just one paddle stroke at a time from here. So I guess let's start on day one, because that's going to be the hardest piece of this, obviously, you know, because of the time restraint.
And it's the qualifier, so and it also is one of the most open bodies of water you're going to experience, and the seas tend to stack a lot right here against tide, and you could be facing 6-foot seas on a 10-second period, which is, as you know, pretty steep.
Yeah.
You know, I think Josh is going to have a lot of challenges, just like most racers. Some of the big challenges, I think, for a stand-up paddleboard is going to be in stage 1. It's a 40-mile crossing from Port Townsend to Victoria. A lot of exposure. You get really far from land, 20 miles from land. That's going to have a lot of inherent danger if the wind comes up.
I'm ready for him to get to the other side. This is a quick, easy 40 miles. We do this on the weekends.
It was not enjoyable. The paddle was not enjoyable at all. It was freezing cold. We came out of Port Townsend, and it was standing up 6-7 footers, and so naturally because they're standing up very steep, the board doesn't go over them. So you just eat a lot of them, and all the wave just comes over the board, and sometimes it takes you off with it. So I started getting cold around about 30 minutes in, and knew this was going to be a long day. Nothing like getting wet. It's gonna get rough again. It's gonna get rough again.
To even make this crossing, this first initial crossing in an engineless boat, in my eyes is heroic.
This is real. The sea is forever. The whole time you're thinking, this is not the race. This is the proving ground. This is just to show you can get across the hardest part of this race. It's harder than anything else. And then you're gonna do 750 miles. So I didn't want to burn anything. So I was just taking my time and trying to relax. So when I saw the lighthouse, I knew I was in that final stretch. Plus, I'm going to get out of the wind, finally have the wind at my back for a mile and a half. All the folks are yelling at you from the dock and from the lighthouse. So it's an amazing feeling. And also because they know what you're doing. The folks here in Victoria know what you're doing.
I remember back probably over 4 years ago when Josh was suicidal. I remember thinking, seeing all the signs and knowing that he wouldn't be with us any longer if I didn't make the call.
Can you maneuver well enough with the rudder if you did that?
I found myself in a very, very dark place. My family was affected, and I was blind to it all and deaf due to multiple traumatic brain injuries during my military service and PTS.
And during his recovery, he knew that he wanted to do something to help others.
That was the beginning of my torrent. That violent flood of water or emotion that overwhelms a soldier after they retire when they get out and are going to do better things in their civilian world.
Josh, yeah. So you're ex-military?
I am.
No, good.
You?
Ex-Air Force, Canadian.
Air Force, right on.
Thanks
for
special.
sharing.
It was the connection. And it was, he knew that all that we needed were everyday citizens, veterans, it doesn't matter, connecting with our veterans and reaching out to them to see if they needed help, to see if there was anything that they could do for them.
Connection is the cure. This is Operation Torrent. Obviously, I'm paddling to finish this race, but it's not the most important race to finish. And I know there's guys out there who are contemplating ending it all in some way, and I know because I've been there, and I know because we still have that awful 22-a-day statistic. My goal is that this will inspire you in some way to put the next paddle stroke in, that you're not alone, that I know I'm not alone when I'm out here, and sometimes it feels very, very alone, that there is a shoreline I'm gonna reach, that there are people there on that shoreline that are gonna help me, and there are people cheering for me to make it, and that want me to make it, and that need me to make it, and I hope that we can do this together. That's why I've chosen to be in the Race to Alaska. Paddle this 750 miles to inspire and save lives.
This is a long journey, and it's hard for me to see him out there, knowing he's out there, possibly giving his life. But it's a bigger purpose. It's bigger than us. It's for all the lives that he can save. If it's just one, it's worth it.
obstacles are. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Today's race started in the traditional Le Mans style, where they did a countdown. The countdown was preceded by all of the participants in the race running as fast as they could to their vessels, jumping in them, casting off the lines with some air in that, and taking off and having to human power their way out of Victoria Harbor, since sailing is not allowed. You have to row or human power out of the harbor. Because of that, there was also a favorable condition for Josh, because he was able to jump in and paddle and do what he does best, is paddle, whereas the sailboats were at a disadvantage because they're bigger, heavier, bulkier.
Whoop, whoop, woo!
One of the challenges I had to figure out was how I was going to fuel the machine, what food I was going to take, how I was going to stay hydrated, and all my nourishment. That's when I met the folks at Prove It, Dr. Dom, and the folks at ASPI.
My name is Dr. Heather Carden. I am the co-owner of Carden Center for Wellness. I am the co-chair of Low Carb KC. I'm an independent promoter for the company Prove It and one of their ketone nutrition specialists. When I heard about Josh Collins' mission and Operation Torrent, I knew that he needed to be fueling with ketones. It's going to help him cognitive-wise, it's going to help him with recovery, it's going to help protect lean muscle, and really accomplish the mission that he wants to accomplish without further damaging his body. We got to stop at ASPI.
Hey, Ryan
Dr.
Lowry.
Josh Collins, my wife
Hi,
Tanya.
Ryan Lowry. Great to meet you.
Right on.
Welcome to ASPI. Let's go get
Awesome.
started.
Thank you.
All right, Josh, so the first thing we're going to be doing is looking at your body composition. So we're using dual X-ray absorptiometry to basically look at your lean body mass, so how much skeletal muscle, fat mass, and then also look at bone mineral density and visceral adipose tissue. So how much fat is kind of around your organs. This we can get a baseline at and look at where you're at. So Matt's going to get you set up here and kind of get you laid out and do a quick little scan. My name is Ryan Lowry. I'm the president of the Applied Science and Performance Institute here in Tampa, Florida, where we do a lot of research and testing on high-level athletes to your everyday individual. And I also serve as an advisor to Prove It, who has the technology that Josh is going to be utilizing throughout his race. So the next thing we're going to be doing is looking at your metabolism. We want to establish where you're at as far as resting energy expenditure, and then also looking at, are you burning more fat as fuel, are you burning more carbohydrates as fuel? What I'd predict is you've been on a ketogenic diet for a good time now, and going into this race, we want to hope that you're utilizing more fat as fuel, because the more you're able to utilize that, the more you're able to tap into it, the better off you're going to be. So we're going to be able to directly analyze where you're at on that spectrum, and then be able to really help apply something to make it so it's easier during the race. Based on today's testing with Josh, one of the things that we learned about is his body composition. He's in a very good state going into the race. Additionally, we looked at his metabolism. His metabolic rate is extremely high, which means he's able to burn a lot of calories, which are primarily coming from fat. So he's extremely fat adapted and able to utilize fat as fuel. This is great. So here's where we're at. The results look like this. So your basal metabolic rate, so how many calories you're using just sitting down at rest, is 2,500. That's incredible, like 2,500 a day. So like that goes to how much muscle you have, how active you are, how physically fit you are. Like 2,500 is a good deal, just basal. So basically what we're going to be doing here is a synaptic sensorization. So basically looking at hand-eye coordination. We're going to see how many you can hit in 60 seconds. And we can use that, engage it as a baseline, and then see where you're at here in a couple days. The last thing we did was a biomechanic assessment and a cognitive aspect, where we looked at his movements, how he was functioning, and we'll be able to determine after the race how that changes. We've tested hundreds of athletes here at ASPI. Where Josh compares is he far exceeds most people that we see come in here. We work with top elite athletes all the time. Not only from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, his ability to combine both together exceeds what we'd see in top tier athletes. So Josh, while he's out in the water and he's doing this mission, is going to be utilizing exogenous ketones every couple of hours to provide that fuel source, not only for his brain, but for his muscle tissue. Additionally, he has things like fat bombs, which are packed of fuel and they're ample amounts of fat that his body can take up and utilize, versus all of the goos and gels and everything else that someone who is carb adapted would have to take. His body can readily take up and utilize these fat and ketones to fuel him throughout the entire time.
So our second day was a stop at the University of South Tampa, Florida, meeting the foremost ketone thought thinker, innovator, Dr. Dominic D'Agostino.
My name is Dominic D'Agostino, and I'm an associate professor at the University of South Florida, Morsani College of Medicine, and we're at the Hyperbaric Biomedical Research Lab. And I am also a research scientist at the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition. So our lab is actually based upon studying ketones as a countermeasure against the stress that would be associated with prolonged exercise and also extreme environments. And what we've demonstrated is that ketones in a specific formula can enhance the metabolic activity of cells and actually enhance the cell's ability to produce ATP, which is the energetic currency of the cells. So in Josh's case, with having suffered repeated brain injuries, we know that ketones play a role in the recovery process, and they also play a role in enhancing and preserving performance when the damage may already be done, but also most importantly enhancing the recovery process. So Josh will be subjected to a variety of environmental stressors that will really push his body and his central nervous system to the max, right? And so that is really going to necessitate an optimal fueling strategy that can not only power his muscles for the performance, but most importantly power his central nervous system, which is really the driving motor that sends a signal to the muscles to keep on going. The ketone fueling strategy is really the ideal approach for what Josh is wanting to do.
He's been working with NASA, the DoD, the Navy SEAL operations team, actually seeing how we can optimize performance when they are in this horrific state, whether it's high altitude being dropped there, or they're Navy SEAL down in hypoxic situations, or astronauts, as we know that they actually can age very fast in space. Dr. Dom's been testing this and testing it on people model and rat models for well over a decade. I think it was important for Josh to really hear that he's doing the right thing being on a ketogenic diet, what the exogenous ketones can do and what he can expect, not only during his race, but also with recovery. So that piece of the puzzle was super important to me because he brought the exogenous ketones to the market. He's the one who formulated the 2.1 that actually Josh Collins will be drinking. Making that connection was just super important for Josh to hear from the innovative thought leader who actually brought this to the market. We've been studying ketones since 1920, but no one could get the supplement made. And so Prove It made it using Dr. Dom's basic principles and formula.
Okay, Josh, so this is our DNA kit. And what we're going to do today is we're going to test your DNA. First of all, we're going to do a simple swab of the mouth. 20 swabs on both cheeks, both on the inside. Then we're going to put this in a special tube that all gets sealed up and gets overnighted to our lab. The reason why we're doing this is what we're going to check for is based on our DNA, we can now prove what our workout regimen should look like, what our daily meal plan should be, and also what our core nutrients or our supplements should be that we bring into our system. In addition to all that, we can also do a very, very important test on our cognitive brain function, what brain diseases might even be in our future or not. It's going to be off. You're going to have your results back in a few days, at the most 10 days, and then you'll be ready to go and you'll be able to see your results. So we're excited for you, brother.
This is going to be good.
All the good work you're doing. Thank you.
I'm very happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I found this fallen tree to tie off to, fairly close to shore. The tide will come way down. This is probably like a small cliff here. So I'm gonna stop here and get a few hours sleep. I'll sleep right here on the board. Just sit here and kick my feet up over the paddles and my gear, and wake up when I wake up and start paddling again. Good night. We watched the sunset, we watched the sunrise, and we're paddling on. Yeah, I've got about 2 hours sleep, I think. Not the best, but it's good enough to continue mission. And we're paddling on.
Just on the north side of Galiano Pass, and just gonna stop here and eat some breakfast. Try to find some water. There were some moments that I couldn't even recall what I was doing. You know, so I know when you get tired, you know, your memory lags. But as I sat down to eat, I was having trouble figuring out where I was and why I was there. It was a little nerve-wracking and scary. Headed into Dodd Pass and out into Georgia Strait and up to Seymour Narrows. I gotta look how much further. I think it's probably about 100 miles. Yesterday was an important day for me because I was able to stop with control and make sure that I got rest. And this is what you got to do every time you camp with 14-foot tides. After visiting with the folks there at ASPI, I got to see exactly where my body is, but I really need to challenge myself. So I'm headed to Tampa to compete in the Everglades Challenge and paddle to Key Largo, Florida.
A lot to think about on when you're starting a journey like this, and there's, it's pressure for time. There's all the pressure you put on yourself. You just try to be calm.
So I've got the Everglades Challenge tomorrow. I'll leave the beach at 7 a.m., 300 miles to Key Largo. This is the first race where I'm gonna find out, exactly how my body performs on this fuel, and I'm gonna, I'm not sure what to expect. I know what I'm hoping for, I know what I've been told, but
We'll see. I'm thinking diesel fuel, that's all I'm thinking. Unbelievably, I got a concussion at the Everglades Challenge on a stand-up paddleboard. And I very much began to doubt myself. Even everything that I knew about survival and paddling and just making a lot of mistakes. That's when I knew I needed to call some friends for help.
From the beach here, I'm launching back. Felt like I slept too long, but I needed it. I knew when I got up. I slept for about an hour or two, and then I realized that I needed more sleep. I couldn't remember some things and was having trouble. That's the hardest part of this for me, is the discipline to stop. And I've got to get sleep. And no matter how important the mission is, I got to make sure that I'm taking care of me. And so we're back on the water, and I'm not going to let it go that long again. Got to make sure I stay rested. We're still into our second 24. So I'm not feeling too bad. So on this second 24, I've already got about 10, 12 miles knocked out. Let's see what I can do by noon. I'm headed out to sea, making a big crossing. I think it's 60, 70 miles to Campbell River, and the wind is really favorable. I might even put up my sail. It's just a real quick update. Beautiful sunset. I'm paddling into that, and you see the water is just glass, and so I'm gonna get some more paddling in. I feel pretty good, and I'll stop to sleep at some point, but I'm gonna make some more distance. This is how I catch a quick power nap out here. I've been paddling for 12 hours, and so I figured I could use a little break and then keep going. Usually it's a little wave comes over and wakes me up. This is the mouth of Johnstone Strait and Seymour Narrows, which shall be taken off for tomorrow. Right now, all I'm thinking about is a bacon double cheeseburger with lots of mayo.
Yes! I was blindsided when I received a call from the Race to Alaska committee and the race boss, Daniel, questioning my health, ability, and judgment making from the Everglades Challenge.
Yeah, I mean, one of the concerns I had when Josh came and decided that he wanted to do the Race to Alaska was he was doing it for some very good reasons. And one of them was around awareness and treatment of TBI or traumatic brain injury. One of the concerns that I had with Josh is that, and he's been very open about it, but he has had a lot of concussions that have affected his balance, that have kind of affected his horizons, and affected him in ways that I'm not aware of. So how is that going to be when you are 100 miles into the wilderness with no one around you, with no aid? And so I did have a lot of concerns about how Josh would be able to operate in those conditions.
After the concussion at the Everglades Challenge, I knew I needed some help. I called my friend at 22 Kill, Jacob Schick, and he recommended that we put together a round table of athletes, professionals, and special operations veterans to do an after-action review and a hot wash, which is what we call talking about the mission and working out the things that went wrong in order to move forward.
Thank you all so much. You may or may not know, the Race to Alaska is my mission to triumph over adversity. I'm doing this because right now the veteran suicide rate is nearly double that of civilian counterparts. And so many veterans, even after they get out, are struggling with post-traumatic stress, issues with traumatic brain injury, and other deficits that they're trying to figure out just in coming back into society. And that's what we're here to talk about, and how to confront these matters together. I truly believe that connection is the cure. Just knowing that you're not really alone is everything when you're out there.
Josh, you described some pretty tough conditions in your path up to Ketchikan, Alaska. How do you duplicate that from a training perspective?
So what I've learned is you can't paddle 16 hours a day and duplicate that, because you break down. And you won't be doing that for very long. I know that my paddle is actually only in the water for half a second. I'm only pulling for half a second, and I'm doing that about 40 times a minute. So if you think about that, that's only 20 seconds. I'm only pulling 20 seconds of every minute. So if I hold a position for 3 minutes, that's equivalent to, like with a band, where I'm pulling a band and I hold this position, that's equivalent to a mile. I take the hardest part of what I'm training, and that's that pull, that bending over and awkward position. It's very painful, and I just hold it. And that's the thing, is this is all about dealing with pain and struggle. There's a physical, mental, and emotional part of that. And if I can hold that for an hour, and I just paddled 20 miles in an hour. So I can get my workout done pretty quick.
Josh, after getting much needed rest in Camel River, was able to unpack a lot of his gear and dry it out on the dock, get set for the next portion of his journey through Seymour Narrows.
without a doubt, this is the most important, critical aspect of the race. I'm 175 miles in. We did that in about 3 days, 3.5, but now this next straight is it. I'm packing everything up. I think I'm going to be wearing a wetsuit going through here because it's going to be very wet, and hopefully on the other side I'll get dry again. Johnstone Strait is about 50-60 miles long that I want to get through in 2 days, and then be into the wilderness out to Bella Bella. Bella Bella is the next checkpoint.
Seymour Narrows can flow at up to 10 knots and can be very challenging, particularly in a small vessel such as a SUP. Even the Coast Guard, some concern on their part about the amount of wind that he might encounter on Johnstone Strait or going through Seymour Narrows, the currents. As Josh approached Seymour Narrows, it was obvious that he was accelerating with the current. And it gave him some oomph, if you will, in his paddle, so he started to really get onto it. And we were estimating him going through there between 8 and 9 knots through the current. Went by with all the rip tides and the beautiful mountains around. It was something to see.
Josh, I wanted to find out what you would think would be some of the similarities between our U.S. veterans and the NFL veterans as far as the conditions we live in when we actually become normal citizens again, and trying to get to work every day. And this is for anyone in the room.
A similarity that young soldiers, airmen, Marines face, that young players also face, is prime of their career, golden future ahead of them. And whether it's, a concussion protocol that puts them out of the sport, get wounded in action, but you're in the prime of your life, dedicated and tuned to be the best in that discipline, and that quick, it's over with.
Your entire life has been revolving around, I'm going to be a professional athlete, and that's all I want to do. And sometimes we as athletes don't think far enough in advance to realize this career is going to come to an end.
I think one similarity, I'm not sure if it's still prominent today, the DOD and the NFL, we're in the big area to talk about concussions and PTSD and what you guys come back from, and whether or not when you get back on American soil there was somebody there to take care of what's happening with you. And I know on this side, I'm schizoaffective, bipolar 1, and I'm dealing with early onset dementia. The phone calls that I have to make are extensive, and a lot of times you're not getting the help that you need. My fiance, I try to run her ass off every week. So this is not the game that you want to be in. So the stuff that I'm dealing with mentally, physically, is not something I want you to spend the rest of your life doing. So I think a lot of that is similar, to family life, that type of deal.
In my opinion, the medical community is having a hard time wrapping its brain around, is it PTS? Is it something this person saw? Or is it the thousands, 1,500 recorded concussions?
None of that was asked. And then when I was at the Mayo Clinic, I had a doctor ask me, how many circumstances have you been in where the overpressure you were subjected to, which would be very similar to like helmet collisions, was greater than 1 or 2 PSI? And I was, oh, Jiminy Cricket, 3,000, 10,000, uncountable.
Yeah.
And those similarities exist in both of our professions. Every hit you got as a kid added up to a long, enduring detriment to your cognitive abilities as you got older. You can go and get 5 doctors together and you'll get 7 opinions on what a concussion is, and that's kind of frustrating.
The other thing is, and I think this is a great thing, it's been hit on a couple times. Right now in this room, We are talking about and doing exactly what the Vietnam vets did post-Vietnam. And that is, they said, never again.
My situation might have just gotten worse. Sun might be too low. Have to move up to higher ground and try to finish this real quick. Because the tide came up again. So I'm literally in the trees. My board is freaking busted. I'm gonna have to put a, I don't even have enough to repair up front. That one's broke too. But I've made the repair in the back. This has gone from bad to worse. How's that for first night on Johnstone Strait? Woo!
Northwest 10 to 20. This morning, then increasing to northwest 20 to 30 this afternoon.
The thing you gotta realize when you come out here is that after you leave port, nothing will ever be dry again. This stuff was not always so difficult for me. It's very difficult now. Everyone forgets things. I understand. I'm not being ridiculous about that. It's just, it doesn't have to be at this level. Just dumb mistake after dumb mistake after dumb mistake. That's not who I am. Welcome to Johnstone Strait. It's a battle, huh? All right. We knew it. It's all right. I'll give a little. But I'm gonna take a lot.
I wish I could be paddling, but you listen out there. That's why I'm not paddling. Tide changes at 04 and I'll get back on it, but until then I'm gonna get a good night's sleep.
Something tells me it's gonna be another long day. Getting knocked in just even on my knees or on my ass. It is blowing hard. There's a little spot on shore I'm trying to get to. Everything else is cliffs.
Oh, shit. Just getting my butt kicked. So this is the second camp I made. I've been sleeping on the board or taking a little nap on the beach. This is probably the hardest part of this whole thing. I can paddle, but making camp and getting organized and finding everything again, putting everything back in the right places and remembering where everything is, that's probably the toughest part. So maybe I need to make camp more often. Feeling a little bit of exhaustion this morning. Just real deep fatigue. And just trying to paddle through it. Camera's shaking. I'm shaking. Trying to paddle through it and just kind of got to the point of, okay, better sit down.
it back down. I also don't want to pass out. Splash! Be awake then. Waking up slowly. And not a big deal.
We got to get to Bella Bella, get the board fixed. The board's still taking on water. Got to get it fixed properly so I can continue. We're still 20 miles out. It's compass only, fogged over. A little bit of a crossing here. Can't see anything. Lots of great challenges. Just keep on trucking.
It may be it's gotten as bad as it can get. I'm not dead. It's the mental struggles, it's the memory that I'm fighting. I nearly lost my compass again. I left the beach. I had to come back. Search through all my stuff out on the board. Search the beach. This would have been it. I have another compass. And I don't have another GPS. It's not the paddling that's killing me. Between here and here. I feel very, very defeated right now. I'm also, filming all this and I've lost 2 GoPros today. Just stupidity. This is not who I once was, and I would like to have back just a piece of who I once was.
Okay, I just want to bring up a point from later on into life, because John is 79, senior to all of y'all, and he has now later stage Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We have been told that the brain injuries are over 50 years old, takes us back to the Super Bowl. And what it takes from a family standpoint, you've mentioned your wife, even as a caretaker. I know y'all are experiencing it internally from your own body, but from your spouses and what it takes and how much we hurt to see y'all going through things. We've got the Alzheimer's Association trying to get me to put him into a facility. I'm not giving up that fast.
In different eras, there were different perspectives. For instance, in John and somewhat my era, the concussion test was 3 fingers. And if you said what the number was, then you were okay. You were sent back on the field. And so there was a peer pressure at one point, some of the eras that we've lived, there was a peer pressure to where being in the military and being an NFL player raised you a bit in society. You were seen as something a little different, more of a warrior, and I think that perspective also, was infringed or injected into us.
The sad thing is you're reflecting decades back on what concussion protocol was. Concussion protocol today in the military is not even that.
Really?
You don't even get 3 fingers.
Right. And that's the sad part, because when we look at the similarities and then we talk about the unity between different teams and different organizations, product that they gave us was flawed. And it was not well thought out because no one actually looked at the brain as brain injury back in those days. They just looked at it as, oh, they'll be okay.
It just blows me away. For over a decade, I've been trying to find what's the next test. Give me that test. Give me that test. Just give me some answers. And no one that I've found so far has them.
Our number one problem is the human element. I'll tell you that right now.
But at the same time, I think the human element is part of the cure, like you said.
You can't have one without the other.
You can't have one without the other. I work in veteran resources, matching veterans and their families up to the plethora of things out there for them. And it's different for every single person. No two needs are the same. And so when it comes down to it, the cure is in the connection, because somebody might know of that brain treatment center that you've never heard about, but because you spoke to them about it, then they're able to let you know about it. It happens to me all the time that I meet a veteran who has a specific need, and then I just learned about that solution that might be a possible solution for them the day before, and I can share it with them. And it takes that communication and getting out there and being a resource, making those connections, and that's what saved my life. I was suicidal in 2014, and I had a plan in place and everything. That man standing behind the counter, his name is Mark Roy, he invited me to my first Marine Corps League meeting. I go to that meeting, and it started a chain of events that changed my life, that brought me to this table here. And if it had not been for him getting out there and being one of those people to help make those connections, being a bridge for other people, that's what we can do to help solve these problems.
Josh, at 22 Kill we have a saying, it's one tribe, one fight. A lot of people think that means the warrior community fighting for said community, and that's not at all what it means. It means mankind leaning in and relying on mankind to not only live but live well, because that's how we truly honor those that came before us and the ones that we can no longer associate with. And with what you're doing and the mission that you've embarked on shows how vulnerable you are in order to fight for the greater good and to be part of something that's much greater than you'll ever be. And so for that, we thank you.
Where's Sheartown?
Shearwater?
Shearwater.
You're right around the corner. You can go to Shearwater or Bella Bella.
So I heard there's a fiberglass guy there.
Heard of Murphy's Law, right? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. There's R2AK law. Everything will go wrong. I've experienced it all.
Hey, we came here, got here to Shearwater, and got a hotel room. This angel named Raquel, she kind of comes down. She's the general manager, and then that was it. It was all over. I was being cared for, hand and foot.
And my front desk girl said there's this poor bastard in room 101 whose hands look like mittens and his feet are all swollen up and he needs some ice and can we do something and blah blah blah. So I went in and took one look at him.
This is what a trench foot looks like. This is from immersion. So basically your skin just begins to slough off.
So then just went and got him some ice. And then my girl Lindsay and I went into his room to do it as what we would call a stay. And we've just had tree planters here for 3 weeks and we thought we had seen it all. And then we went into Josh's room. So I literally approach every room I do and I tell these girls, when you're doing a stay, make like you're their mom. I thought he was gonna be mad at me. I caught him at the door and said, please don't be mad, I didn't throw anything important away, I promise.
And I came in and everything it was in the dry room. My laundry is done. It's pretty amazing. They hung everything, they put everything with stuff where it goes, and now all I have to do is sorted out. It's been, I mean, she's just an angel. I mean, she literally put a chair here and saw I was hurting and just tended, you know. There's just people like this in the world. Where do you find them?
And it wasn't just me. When he went into the bar and grill, I know that the girls in there went and bought him some Vaseline because his lips were all dry, and somebody made sure he got breakfast this morning after breakfast had finished serving and whatnot, and you know, that's what Shearwater does.
Here in Shearwater, going to get the fins fixed. Finally got to a place where we found a fiberglass guy. He's kind of hard to connect with. He's hard to reach. He doesn't have a cell phone. He only comes over on occasion, so this has been crazy. And I've got to get this tail fin at least fixed so that I have some stability and traction again. Otherwise, it's like riding a bicycle with a steering wheel that's loose, and it's incredibly frustrating, incredibly difficult.
So I met Rick, and it was beautiful that he came down because he's crippled. He's got a neck brace on, he's got a spinal issue, he's got plates throughout his spine. And we were about to do the wrong thing on the board, and he just stopped it. Literally, as we were just about to start, he just stopped. You need this, and you need this, and you need this, and he told everything to do, and that's what we're doing. We are ready to go. It's day 17 of the race. Been here in Shearwater for 2 days. I've been so blessed. So many people have helped me to get back into this race and get back into gear. You can see, got the rear fin. This thing is bomb-proof now. It's been glassed back over. We're going to be leaving here in just a few short hours. I've got 300 miles to go to Ketchikan. I've got to get there well before the 9th. That's when my flight is, and I got 3 really important reasons. 1, my mission and purpose for veterans. 2, my son is getting married and I'm the best man, and I think that's on the 12th in North Carolina. And 3, one of my middle daughters is having a grandbaby and she is due anytime, and I got to get back to see my grandbaby.
What do I think? Drive, sacrifice, you know? It's a great mission. It's a great mission.
It's a great start out of Shearwater. Welcome back to R2AK. Into the wind, into the current. I love you too. It's been a little apprehensive in coming out here again. How I was gonna feel, how my hands, how my feet. Back on the water. It's like back into the real world. Refacing the whole, it's like refacing a nightmare I just faced. It's pretty frustrating. I just left checkpoint 2 Bella Bella and where we fixed the board, and I'm stuck on this little island. That big wind is keeping me in here. It's probably about 4 or 5 o'clock and I'm gonna have to wait, and the tide right now is, you know, if I could do another 5-6 miles, it'd push me right up where I need to be, and that's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna get warm. So last night the wind was blowing pretty good out of the west and pushing me into the rocks, into the shore, and I chose to continue on at night instead of making camp. So as I continued on, the wind continued, and then at one point in time I hit a rock again with my board. I got pushed into the rocks as I was trying to get out, and put a crack in the side of the board. So basically, because I didn't make a smart decision up front, I was put at the mercy of the decision being made for me, and that was to get out of the water. And when you leave it to Mother Nature, when you leave it to the sea to make the decision for you, it's going to be under her control and her conditions. I can't stop pissing. I got extremely foul smelling urine. I'm just pissing constantly. It's a little nerve-wracking. I don't know what my body's going through right now, but it's going through something. I keep pissing them. My legs are solid cramps now. I sent the non-emergency help button, I guess, about 45 minutes ago. I don't know. Half an hour ago, I don't know. If you got a GoPro and you feel like you're about to die, you might as well take the opportunity to say a few last words.
Unfortunately, our satellite phone got a text message from Tanya, Josh's wife, that he had activated an SOC on the spot tracker. Now, an SOC doesn't mean he's in imminent danger. It just means that he has a need for help.
So the one promise that I had Josh make me is that he would make it home because he has to see his new grandbaby and make it to his son's wedding, her son's wedding, and because we have a lot to look forward to, and I just want him to be safe and come home.
We quickly did plan B, which was to get on the radio, the very high frequency radio, the VHF, and call him. No response, so we turned the boat around immediately. We immediately throttled up to maximum cruising speed, which is around hull speed, and we raced back to the location that the spot tracker had indicated Josh was at last. Upon getting within visual sight of the beach with binoculars, we noticed the silhouette of Josh's stand-up paddleboard up on the beach, and it appeared to be accompanied by 3 or 4 kayaks with their distinctive bright colors, yellow and orange. As we got closer and closer, the radio cracked to life, and Josh was on the other end, where we could anchor signaling and discuss further. Also, we have the satellite phone aboard, so if you want to call a physician or a doctor to figure out maybe what you're experiencing, that might be a prudent move.
That sounds good. Is this board?
He briefly explained to us that he had some issues, wasn't sure what they were. His legs were cramping up, they were becoming immobile. Luckily there was 3 gals that had come to his rescue and were helping him. They had assisted him with some electrolytes and they kept him comfortable while they waited for the one of the big tracker boats to get there. After getting to it at a safe distance, we deployed the dinghy into the water and took the film crew into the beach.
It's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, we'll figure out something to do with the...
We immediately assessed the situation and found Josh to be in more of a serious condition than we were comfortable with. We loaded him into the dinghy and took him out to the boat while the other half of the film crew packed up the gear and the board, got it all ready.
You know, I think one of the most brave things any man can do, especially a veteran, is to know when they need help. The fact that he was able to make that decision is in a way finishing the race.
And we brought everything to the boat and raced to the hospital in Bella Bella. Brian, come here and hold this fender right here in between the boats. At around 11:30 to midnight, we arrived in Bella Bella. Darkness had fallen, and we were faced with the challenge of getting Josh from the boat at the marina all the way to the hospital, which is a little under a mile away. With the help of the film crew, myself, and a good Samaritan from Bella Bella, we were able to get Josh across the precarious dock, up the ramp, and into the truck. We were then able to take him in the truck to the hospital to get him the proper care he needed. We were told that Josh would be fine now in the hospital, and we would be awaiting the blood tests in the morning to find out what had actually happened to him.
You know, it's rote to say everything happens for a reason, but you know, I'll tell you, I'm pretty fortunate that it wasn't that it hadn't gotten dark yet, and that they were there to assist, because this all moved very fast. So I'm in the hospital now, and they're treating me for cellulitis in the left leg, and that's with IV antibiotics. I'm on my 3rd set. And my whole leg is just kind of locked up in infection between the knee, the ankle, and my thigh. And I'll be on those for a little while, trying to get better. And my mission here was to complete the race to Alaska, but it was also to show that it's the most important thing to go ahead and start the race, more than anything else. Then the finish really doesn't matter. The second part is knowing when to ask for help, and that, you know, all my veteran brothers and sisters out there, when facing those difficulties, and especially when it gets to the point of rehearsing with a gun to your head, it's time to ask for help, and it's completely and perfectly okay, and it's the right thing to do. Ask for help.
See you next year.